This is why God gave you a second brain or a notebook. He's like, man's getting stupider and stupider. Let me give them a little assist. Actually, all of education is changing. You used to go to school and it was to memorize information and facts and things like that. And since the internet has come along, this is just in the past 20 years, all the way of learning has completely been flipped upside down. So, you no longer have to. Used to be you'd have to use your brain for storage and memorization, and to know something you had to remember and memorize and study. Now I can know everything with the "Hey Siri." She's very attentive. Wednesday at youth, Tracy was out at the car in the parking lot, and I was standing at the door, and I wanted her to get something out of the car, and instead of saying, "Hey Tracy," I said, "Hey Siri," and I was like, wait a second. "Hey Tracy." I said, "Hey Siri," so. But don't believe everything. Check it out. You got to check out. Don't believe everything you hear on the internet. All right, so here's some thoughts and notes that I had this week. The less I care about what others think, the less I care about what others think, the freer I am to be creative and innovate. The less I care about what others think, the freer I am to be creative and innovate. You're not being creative. You can write this down. Copying is not creative. Copying is not creative. So the Bible verse for this would be, do not be conformed, but be transformed. Don't be conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. Conforming is copying. We have just our makeup as humans, we have a desire to be social. We have a desire, humans are a herd mentality. Okay? We are the moo-bah. Moo-bah. We're herds. We're herd animals. Okay? And why? Because the number one need that we perceive to have is survival. So in the animal kingdom, we're not necessarily, because of our brains, we're not the fastest. We're not the biggest. We're not the most ferocious. So in the human social in the animal kingdom hierarchy, for us to survive, we're a herd. We have just an innate biological, natural instinct that there's safety in numbers. So we gather. And we pull our resources. And the number one thing that humans do is we pull our thought resources. And we learn from one another. And, we create agreements. We create agreements. Everything that we do as humans is built on generally unspoken agreements. You go into jail, there's agreements. They might be, they're not written down, but you know what everybody kind of agrees to. These are agreements, It's like you go to church, you kind of know what the agreements are. You go play on the basketball court, you know what the agreements are amongst the people. You don't spend an hour, going over the rules, and you're going to do this and you're going to do that, right? And you're not going to do this and you're not going to do that, right? And no, it's like, how this goes, right? Yeah. Why? Because you've been here before. You're part of the herd. You're part of the basketball herd. You know the deal. Right? You're part of the, when you hear those bars clank behind you, you know the deal. And if not, you're going to get schooled real fast on the deal, And again, it's not because we hand out handbooks on this stuff. It's like, right? But so, listen, so like this, I'm teaching you some stuff that if you actually meditated on this stuff, you would learn that everything has rules and principles. Like everything. And then when you learn what those are, you can maneuver successfully. So success only happens when you function within the principles or the rules, because you know what they are and you use them to your advantage. And you stay on the right side of whatever that rule is. Right? Like if you're playing basketball on the playground, and you can kind of feel the environment, like, hey, is this a thug game or is this, whatever. Like you play it a little bit different in the YMCA than you do out on the asphalt with the ones that got the chain for the net. It's a little bit different game, but you adjust for that. You can call some fouls in the Y. You ain't going to call it out on the asphalt. You're just not going to do it. If you're smart, you're not going to do it. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? So, we understand that at a playground level, at a jail level, at the back alley level, we understand that. But do you understand that the next level you want to be at, the next environment you want to be at, has principles and laws and rules too? And every environment you step into, and if you want to be a success in business, I say this all the time, and some people might know how to complete this sentence. And this is me as a pastor, I love a Rat. I love a rat. I love a rat. Why? Why? Because out here, it ain't called snitching. It ain't called ratting. It's called telling the truth. See, in church, that's called telling the truth. That's called living in the light. Like, I'm a person of the light. I like the light. I like to be informed. I like to know what's going on. I like to know what's going on behind my back. It's called the truth. You want to be a success out here? You got to have all the information so I can make wise decisions. You know? It ain't us versus them. It's not. It ain't kill or be killed. You know? Listen, those rules might keep you alive in a certain environment, but if you want to keep living in that environment, then keep playing by those rules. Because you ain't gonna play playground ball in college. It only works. You ain't going to be on Mike Krzyzewski's team and get away with that. You ain't making it to that level. You're just not going to do it. So you can dream all you want to, you can wish all you want to, you can be jealous of the success of other people all you want to, but here's the thing, you're playing by the wrong set of rules. You know, you want to be friends with the judge, or you want to be an enemy of the judge? You can be friends with the gangster disciples, and every cop and every judge and every person within the city manager's office and all of the people that work in high rises and boardrooms. You're going to be on the outside. You're not going to see the kind of success they see. Just ain't happening. Oh, but you can rise as high as you want to in the Crips or the Bloods or the gangster disciples or the Hells Angels. You can be number one. Go for it. You can be El Presidente. Again, talking about a herd. Who you want to run with. Because you're going to have to change your thinking, because everything works with principles. So, you know, we want change, but we hate different. Say we want change, and then every time something different presents itself, we fight against it. It don't work that way. Change is different. So you have to embrace different. And can I just say this? In order to do that, what you knew not going to work in what's new. That's a good quote right there. What you knew, K-N-E-W, isn't going to work in what's new, N-E-W. And so, the scripture for that one Could be lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways acknowledge God and He will direct your steps. Lean not on your own understanding. You know what that means? Your opinion ain't crap. Not in the grand scheme of how big God is. I could go ask a NASA scientist, 16 years of education, a space engineer, an astronomical astrologist who studied and studied and studied. And I could ask him a question about the oxygen level in the ocean at 1,000 feet, and he probably wouldn't have the answer. The space has actually been way more explored than the ocean has. The depths of the ocean. I mean the deep depths of the ocean. What does that mean? You can write this one down. Focus creates blindness. Focus creates blindness. In order to know so much about one thing, you have to be immersed and so focused on it that it takes your time away from knowing other things. You listen, if I told you to write the rules, we're going to do, you've seen these books, it says, Microsoft 2.0 for dummies, right? You've seen all those dummies books, right? Like, and Spanish for dummies, and I could tell anybody in this room, I could say, write down all the rules that you know for the street for dummies, the jail for dummies, and like this book hasn't been written yet. Y'all can make a #1 bestseller, right? I don't know who would be buying it like, yeah, man, I really want to learn this because that's where I want my life to go. That's my target. I'm shooting for that. Right? But what I'm saying is, y'all can write that book. Y'all can write that book. Why? Because you've had to focus. You've focused in that area. You're highly effective achievers, overachievers, some of you, in that area. You have mastered it. We're doing a master class. You know the rules. You know what it takes. But the same way as if we did, aerodynamics for dummies, guess what? That person would have had to focus so much attention on, thrust and velocity and wind resistance and everything that it takes for, a vehicle or a motorized apparatus to get up off the ground, that they don't know nothing about the street. If you put them in a certain environment, they We can, it's not a race thing. It's not anything. We could take, one of the Obama girls, drop them down here at the corner of West Street and Dunlop in Petersburg. It'd be like a deer in headlights. Take one of the Trump kids, pull them out of the Hamptons, or out of the penthouse, the high rise on Fifth Avenue, and bring them and drop them, in Red Onion or something like that. Deer in headlights. They don't know. Well, it's no different than, if we took you and dropped you into a boardroom in a penthouse, in that environment. I went to New York City, stayed at a resort on 42nd Street in Manhattan, and like everything was like different. I was like, why are you still standing here? He wanted a tip, I guess. I didn't know that. Like, what you doing, boy? And I shared this before. If you don't tip the valet right, your car's going deep. Your car's going deep, and then when you want to leave, you better let the valet know a half an hour, because your car's deep. Like they pack cars on top of you, behind you. When they park cars, man, they are bumper to bumper. I was like, go to New York City, and I'm like, why do all these cars have these rubber mats hanging out their trunk over their bumper? Because they touch bumpers. That's how they park them. And they park them 15, 20 deep. And if you want your car, they're going to have to move 15 other cars just to get your car. So it's like, don't piss the guy off. Or you're going to be late for your next appointment. But these are rules. Like, you don't know, right? Why? Because we've been focused in a certain area for so long, and going back to the original thought is, why do we do that? Is because of survival. Because we think, I'm running with this herd, I need to know what this herd does, what the maneuvers are, what the call signs are when danger is around, so we can all run together. And listen, this is biological, it's natural. The deeper I can get into the herd, the safer I am. If I'm on the fringes, I can get picked off. But if I can get to the inner circle, they're gonna eat a lot of slower people, a lot of people that aren't as deep in the herd as I am. The wolves, the lions, the jackals, whatever. They're going to get them before they ever get to me. So you understand the human mentality and the human drive for connectivity and social is really, it stems from survival. And can I tell you what drives that? Is a fear. The fear of loss. Now, light bulbs just went off in a whole lot of people. That really most of the motivations that motivate us for just even average everyday life, if you trace it back, it's attached to some fear. Why we do what we do. So we're raised in a family, we're raised in a neighborhood, and the neighborhood has rules and dictate the rules. But here's the thing, man. If we grab too hard onto those rules and we go too deep into that neighborhood or into that life, guess what? It's also harder to get out. You're going to have to go through all those, you want to, yeah, it's safer. And I'm just saying, we don't even realize that we're going deeper and deeper, deeper into one thing. But what's happening is that focus, right? That focus, and we don't even call it focus. It's just normal life, instinctive to survival, following subconscious and unwritten rules of the herd. And for a lot of us, we didn't even know there was another herd that we could even choose. That we had a choice to run with it. Like, I don't know, this is the only herd I've ever known. And they do certain things. You know? They talk a certain way. You get smacked around. If you, if you kind of step out of line, you get the anger, the wrath of the people who are deeper in it, the old heads, the OGs, right? Like, don't be bringing that game up in here. Don't be bringing, Like I said, you call a foul, you call your own fouls, but the OGs aren't going to put up with you can't be a wimp. I'll say a wimp. Those are not the words I want to use. I can tell you what they say on the playground. So we learn how to play that way, like I said. But then what happens is it in most cases we don't even realize that what's happening. We're being trained to live by those set of rules for the future, because it's just the herd mentality is to just go deeper and deeper, deeper for more safety, more security, whatever. Why? Because we see the people usually in the center have the better lives. But have the better lives of what? Have the better lives of the guy who's pulling 20 to life? Have the better lives of the gangster whose life expectancy is only 45 or whatever. I don't know what the life expectancy of gang members or street or drug dealers or whatever is. But yeah, I mean you can achieve be the best and the pinnacle, and maybe have the nicest car to most girls and the most amount of cash and and whatever. For how long? What's the life expectancy of someone in that herd?
The same on the leadership part of it, and this could be any herd, whether it's streets, whether it's ministry for those that want to step up in pastoring. People that hang around the herd, but sometimes it could be certain rules they disagree with, or something where what they do is, or if they grew up in that ministry or neighborhood or anything or city, they will use what they learned from that herd and make their own little herd. Like if I use an example, let's say you said your father was a pastor. That could be a herd. The reason why you was interested in pastoring is because from your family.
Right.
Same thing in the streets. And I don't even have to pull out names. I just pull out cities because I already know about all of that. The people that have the herds in LA, Chicago, and New York, they hang around them so long. What they do, they leave those places and they go to other cities. Like if it's LA, they'll go to Texas. If it's Chicago, they go to Tennessee.
So that's biblical, traced back to Genesis. It says kind will breed after kind. Okay? So listen, poor people, you know what they breed? Poor people. Gangbangers and criminals, you know what they breed? Gangbangers and criminals. But it goes back. It's long before it was ever a generational sin. It was just called kind breeds after kind.
So you notice that it's how to do something about it.
So that's why you have to be ye transformed by the renewing, the ongoing newness of your mind. Do not be conformed to conformed, ed. Any word that has an ed on the end is past tense. Stop walking in the way that you knew, because when you walk in the way that you knew, you're not going to walk in the newness of life. And everything you got, you can write this down. Everything I got was taught. Everything I got was taught.
It's what?
Taught. Everything I got was taught. I don't care. I don't. You know, if you're living at a millionaire, if you got what a millionaire's got, it's because you were taught how to be a millionaire, how to get it at that level. And now let me say this. You can write this one down. Everything I got was taught, but more is caught than taught. Everything I got was taught, but more is caught than taught. Okay? Like I said, ain't somebody out there like teaching you, you know, when you're 7, 8 years old. Now, you know, these are the rules of the playground. You go out there, you get smacked around a little bit, you get, you know, you watch, you observe, and you're like, oh, okay. What are you doing? You're catching. Children catch more. We're not sitting them down, teaching them, now, listen, this is how you smoke a joint. This is how you roll a blunt. This is how, no. How does a 10-year-old know how to do that? Because he's been reading one of y'all's books on, you know, blunt rolling for dummies? Huh? No. He caught it just along the way. Standing around the corner. Overhearing conversations from the other room. He was catching it. He was catching it. Most everything that we got. So listen. I grew up in church, sleeping there under the seat, and I probably caught more than most people been taught. Just by being that kid, just by being that little baby, that kid. Plus, it helps. I'm an audio and a visual learner. So when something is said, boom, it goes in. I got it, memory. If a teacher went over something in class, if they spoke it in class, I was going to get it right on the test. But I did not do homework. I made a vow to myself. I don't do books, and I don't do homework. So if you're going to teach me, you're going to have to tell it to me. So you know, certain classes are good for that. But, you know, math, you can't just talk math. You got to do the equations. You got to do the paperwork. You got to read the formulas. You got to, right? So, I failed math. Not math when it got into geometry and trigonometry and algebra and you start saying x plus y equals, and you say that, and I'm like, come on. When did we move from the alphabet? When did we start? Now I'm confused. Is this English class? Is this, I learned X and Y in first grade. Why do I have to relearn it somehow? Somehow it makes some mathematical sense in 11th grade. I don't know. But more is caught than taught. And we are products of our environment because of that herd mentality. But we run in herds because of a survival instinct. And survival instinct is motivated by fear. So when you come into the kingdom of God, it says perfect love, who is Jesus. God is love. He casts out all fear. So now I should no longer be motivated by fear. Plan B is a fear plan. You can write that down. Plan B is a fear-based plan. I'm afraid plan A won't work. Faith, I said this in Sunday service, I think, right? Faith has no plan B. Faith has no plan B. And if we're honest, if we've got on our face before God, if we're following the precepts and the principles of God, and we're being obedient to the voice of God, because we've learned to draw close to God and know and distinguish His voice, and we're not being moved by our emotions, which most of our emotions are triggered through fear, which is innate in us because it's a survival instinct. We don't want to lose. We don't want to be discomforted. Listen, all of the metrics of success in this world are fear-based. Trace them back, and you'll find out that how you measure success is how deep are you in the herd? How much stuff do you have between you and death? Right? Bigger house, thicker walls, more rooms, I can go deeper. If you're really rich, you get to have a panic room. And if you're really rich, now you can have your house, your beach house, and you can have a Air Force nuclear bunker. They're converting out in Kansas, they're converting the nuclear missile silos into apocalyptic bunkers, where it's all set up. You can buy one. They outfit them with, AK-47s, and you got all of the food rations that you can have for when the Walking Dead are up on the surface. And then, if you're afraid of death, you can have a scientist cryogenically be freeze-dried, so that later, 100 years from now, when they figure out they can rejuice you up and you can live again. And what is all that? It's fear. Do you understand? It's rooted in fear. We call it success. Wow, man, that guy's got everything. Almost all the status. It's just, the bigger car, right? It's like, I don't want to be, man, if I was in an accident in that little thing, I'd be killed. I need a Cadillac. I need a Ford Excursion. I feel safe in it. Volvos, Subarus, they have the highest safety rating. Or the fear of being stranded on the side of the road. I need to go get a new car. I don't want to be stranded. My car's getting to be 100,000 miles. I need to go get a new car. Now listen, we measure that and go, wow, look at how successful he is. He's got a new car. But it's rooted in the fear of, I don't want to be stranded. And so we've built a whole industry around that, right? I'm afraid I'm going to get blisters on my feet if I walk 2 miles. Get you a car. Plus, you'll be the most successful person in your family. You understand? We don't think of it like that. But even pretty and handsome, it's rooted in fear. It's fear I'm going to be alone, which again is in the animal kingdom. It's rooted in an animal motivation of extinction. Like, we need to populate this herd here, So the strongest, the best, can go deep into the herd and keep repopulating. Because kind breeds after kind. And we need our kind to be the strongest and the best. So we take the most virile, masculine looking male, and we try to match him up with the prettiest, most whatever, so we can have the next generation for the survival of the herd. You understand? I mean, like, when you start unraveling this stuff, it's like, whoa, my metrics are all based in fear? My metrics of success? When you go below the conscious level into the subconscious level, and everything, and then you start, and then this is why God would come along and say, listen, I have not given you the spirit of fear. Come out from among them, have your mind renewed, because why? And what were the statements I started with? So some of you, if you haven't heard me speak, you think, man, this guy's just going off in 100 different directions. No, I'm not. We're still talking about if the freer. I started with a statement, right?
Less I care about one understanding, the freer I will be.
Huh?
Less I care about one understanding, the freer I will be and will become.
The less I care about. Right. So God created you. You're an original. God created you for a purpose and a destiny. But when we are afraid of what others think, we'll conform to the herd. We'll become a copy of the same. So we can have lots of people pat us on the back and go, yeah, you're good. You're just like me. We're all clicking here on the same thing. Keep it up, buddy. But the problem with that is it keeps you at that level. because you're receiving affirmation and you're receiving your validation from just one type, one kind. So yeah, you want the validation of the OGs? Live the life of a prospect. Do everything the way the older ones, the head of that kind, the head of that group, whatever. But like you said, you know, even like what Angel said, it's in every aspect of your life. When you start identifying it, it's in every aspect of your life. And this is why you should always stay in this place of, I shared this with the football team last night, is that being in a place of struggle is not a bad thing. Because most people's lives and the metric for what they use for success is to get more and more and more comfortable. Which, in order for you to be more and more comfortable, the further you have to go down the rabbit hole, the deeper you have to go into that herd, and you have to collect things around you that herd identifies with as measures of success. But the more and more comfortable you get, the more and more assumptions you have to make. Okay, so here's what assumptions do. Assumptions ease the pressure off of your mind. I don't have to think about it because I just assume it. Another word for assuming is prejudice. You know, you're all prejudiced. We're all prejudiced. We're all prejudiced. And it's not a racial thing. We live our life with prejudice. If we didn't, we would be paralyzed. You couldn't walk across the street. You'd be trying to do the mathematics. You'd be standing there trying to do a mathematical equation in your head. Like, okay, I think that car's traveling at 35 miles an hour. I move at 2 miles an hour, and he's at about 150 yards away. Dang, I should have studied more in geometry. And you're trying to figure out, okay, the speed of this is this, that, and the other thing. No, you just assume and you're free to move off of something you've prejudged it to be safe. And so you move. Do you understand? And there's all of these built-in prejudices. You walk into a room, you observe it for a little bit, and then you go ahead and you make okay, it's safe to sit here. You prejudged these chairs. I can't believe how prejudiced you are. Some of you, and they're black and brown. I mean, come on. Like, are you crazy, little white girl? You just came in, plopped down on a black and brown chair, expected it to hold you up and support you? Huh? You prejudged the chair. You just assumed it would work for you. You understand? We prejudge things all the time. Otherwise, we'd be. I mean, you want to live your life like that?
I have to do that.
You know? But I mean, if you had to do that with absolutely everything, you know what I'm saying? You'd never get anything done. You couldn't function. There would be no flow to your life. There'd be no movement. So what we have done is subconsciously we have just wired things into our hard drive, and things become automatic. You know? Things become automatic to us, meaning I don't think about it anymore. And that's how your brain loves to live. Come on. Your brain is discomforted when it has to think about something too long. Your brain says, can't we just throw it into a category? Can't I just put it into a file and then just close the filing cabinet and move on? Right? I don't want to have to think about it. So I just assume that, church is like this, religion's like that, I'm putting it in the file, and that's how it is. You know? Well, I don't know. What if the file that you have or the idea that you have about that wasn't fully formed? Or what if you got misinformation when you were creating your file? Or what if for the first 10 experiences you had, you thought that was normal, but really there's like a whole nother way of doing it. And in fact, your normal was the wrong way. Little kids, they grow up getting smacked around, or they grow up, getting touched, or whatever, and they're just thinking, this is just how it is. I mean, I guess this is it. Why? Because that's all your experiences have taught you. You didn't know you could have a helicopter pick you up at school. Or you could get dropped off at your house in a helicopter on the top of a skyscraper. It's called a penthouse. You didn't know that. You didn't know, some people, were raised one certain way. Other people were raised a different way. And until they were, and can I say this? And and that's for like the first 6 years of your life, you're living around a certain kind. It's called your family. And you're being trained to be like that kind. And again, more's caught than taught. They're just doing, in most cases, they're just doing what they caught their parents doing. And then you go to school, but the school you go to ain't much different because it's in the same neighborhood and your parents live in the same kind of neighborhood of other like people, other cows from the other herd, they all the same. All herding up. Doesn't matter if it's a trailer park, it doesn't matter if it's the projects or if it's a gated community. You live in it. If you're down south, listen, go up to Minnesota. You won't be there very long. You'll be like, man, I need to get me some skis. That looks fun. Like you're down here in Florida and you're like, that would never be. Stay up there for about 2 or 3 months and see snowmobiles, going around and people out in the middle of wintertime and they're just like living life. Riding the trails, cross-country skiing, And all of the people are wearing, Patagonia and Columbia, and they got the coolest, whatever, and you're going to be like, man, I need to get some of those shoes, and I need to get some of that, and I need to look. Why? Because you want to fit in with the herd. Let me share something with you. Some of us who are nonconformists,
I was just getting ready to say, what if you don't want to be part of that? Like, what if you don't like
fear.
being part of the herd?
Fear.
Of what?
Fear because the herd has hurt you. You've seen the herd turn on you. And so you're like, I ain't going to conform. I'm going to be a nonconformist. I'm going to be different. No, listen to me. You got to unravel this. Don't assume that no, this is how I am. No, it's not. Let me just tell you, it's not. It's not. There's been, in most cases, there's been something, and you said in your heart, so here's the deal, is even though it's happening to you, abuse is happening to you, and it's your normal, when you're young and you're innocent, your innocence knows it's not right. But after a while, you have to process it and you have to put it in a category because your brain can't live you can't be stuck in this frame of mind at a 6-year-old, at an 8-year-old, as a 7-year-old going, this ain't right. Why? Because at that point you're powerless to do anything about it. So in most cases, you've made a vow in your heart. I'm about to give some of you some clues. You've made a vow in your heart. I made vows in my heart. All of us have made heart vows. There's a singular thought that goes through every child's head every minute of every day on a constant, continual basis. Okay? And we start out, and we're 1 year old, and we're infants, and we're surrounded by giants. And we have this desire to be independent. And we have this continuous thought that says, wow, I want to be big like that. And at 2 years of age, some giant comes over and says, here, you got your shoe on the wrong foot, and let me tie it for you. And we're like, wow, when I get big, I want to be big like that. I want to be able to put my own socks on and put my own shoes on the right foot. And I want to be, and you're constantly, this is a constant subconscious thought. As, wow, I want to get big, and I want to be able to do that for myself. I want to feed myself. After a while, it's like fun. Ooh, here, open up. The airplane's coming into the hangar. That's so fun. Why would we not want to be 30 years old having that? Here you go, buddy. Open up. I could just see it at chow time. Like, no. Why? Because we all have a thought. Oh, I want to be on the other end of this. I want to be like the big person who's doing this. I want to have the power. I want to have the say-so. I want to have the control. I want to be able to do that. And this is the key to even generational curse. This is the kind breeds after kind. Why? Because subconsciously, that's in your process 1,000,000 times a day as a little kid growing up. Now, what can happen is when wrong comes up against innocence, then you make a vow that says, when I get big, I'm not going to let that happen. I'll never do this. When I have the power, things are going to be different. And then we chart a course. Some of us for difference, or some of us go deeper into the herd and they say, the deeper I can get into this wrong, the safer I'll be the one with the power. But it's because of this loop, this thought that happened, and it's happened. It's how we grow. But in most cases, we're growing in an unhealthy environment, and we're creating vows within ourselves that says, I'll never do this, or I don't want to be like that, because we saw something modeled in front of us. And or we're saying, I want to be the coolest nonconformist one, whatever. And so everybody has a tribe. I don't care. I'm not going to fit in.
I mean, there's a level of conformity to that too.
No, there is. That's what I said. We get the tattoos. We get all of the everything. Why? Because we'll be the coolest amongst all the people that look like that and are like that and everything like that. And that's our tribe. That becomes our herd. The nonconformists become our tribe, our herd that we run with. Now we walk into a room and we judge people. We prejudice people. Or we're doing it to say, you can't judge me. Here, I'll prove it. I'm going to be the kindest, sweetest, nicest guy, but I'm going to look like the baddest, meanest, weirdest guy. So you can't judge me because I've felt judged my whole life and I've been judged wrong my whole life. So now I'm going to use it as a trick. Now I'm going to use it as a trick. I'm going to paint the outside of my book one certain way, and you're just going to assume, and my little joke on the inside, I get to laugh because I get to laugh at you because you're looking at me one way, and I know it ain't true. And I just tricked you. I just misled you because you're judging the book by its cover. Come on, this is not, it's just so, it's just how we do. It's how we do. That's our superpower, right? Our so, and I'm just telling you, for a lot of us who struggled to fit in, or we didn't want to fit in because our innocence was robbed by the people that were in control of the herd. So we were like, I'm going in a different direction when I have the power to, when I'm big enough to.
But choose not to cause pain and suffering. Though. Some people, one person can experience pain and suffering.
And their response is different.
And choose to never make another human being feel that way. And
Right.
another person can experience the same thing and cause everybody.
Right, but you're still, all along the way, that whatever it is has been developed over through a subconscious desire to achieve a certain outcome, and you formulate a whole structure or identity, around it, right? So, if physically, which is physicality is one of the quickest ways that we judge, that we use prejudice, is through, right? We use our sensory perceptions, what we see, feel, taste, smell, touch. Well, if you're not talking to me and all I can have to do is walk into a room and visually judge, and that's how we do it, our first sense as humans is generally sight. And so the herds have split apart by, you're not my kind, you don't look like me, your skin's darker than me, so you segregate and you go over on that, part of the room or neighborhood or whatever, and it's just a sight thing. It's just sight. And we're starting to boom, boom, categorize. And again, it's fear-based. Now, some of us have discovered that, again, being different has its own certain power. It's tricky. I use, and this is what I actually talked to the boys about last night, about assumption. When you start to learn how this, and so, we are so quick to be able to adapt and catch things. Again, there's no handbooks on this. We just turn out this way. We catch stuff. We stand back and we observe. And then we create a version of ourself that is either tricky or whatever. All of us have to have this one thing that is our power. Right? So you could have one big guy, masculine, muscular, and I've seen it go both ways. I've seen that the guy becomes a bully and he uses his strength and his size, and that's his power. And then I've seen somebody be, some of the biggest guys are the nicest guys, the most gentle guys. But again, that's kind of part of their power too, is because it's like, I'm the trick. What you see is not what you get with me. And so my shield of defense is you're going to have to figure me out. Don't assume. You're going to have to, and you're going to have to be around me enough for my shield to come down, because what I front is not what it is. Right? And again, it's a shield. What do we use shields for? Protection. Right? Again, nothing wrong with any of this stuff, but the greatest knowledge you will ever gain, you can write this down. The greatest thing you can ever know is to know yourself. To quote the great philosopher Clint Eastwood, a man's got to know his weaknesses. Man's got to know his limitations. Another one of his great lines, there's them with guns and thems that dig. From the good, the bad, and the ugly. When he was holding the gun on the guy and the other guy had to dig the grave. There's thems with guns and there's thems that dig. But to know yourself. Why? Because you know what? Most people, we can read a scripture like, don't be transformed, or don't be conformed, but be ye transformed. And we'll sit and we'll go, I'm not conformed. I'm not conforming. I'm again, different is change.
Change is the only thing that's permanent.
I don't know. I've seen people stuck because they don't want to change. Change can happen around you and you just don't go with it. Most of us, you can write this down, most of us don't change until the pain of being the same becomes unbearable.
Now, Pastor, can that also be a good thing? Because I get where you're coming from on the bad side of it, but what about on the good side of it? Only because of stories I listen to, even, like I said, it can
No. If you find yourself in certain things, you got to have standards, you got to have convictions, and you got to be so solid. But again, that doesn't happen until you're just solid and fixed in Christ. Because what the world has taught you is you need to change. You need to change from that. Because again, most of it is fear-based, your motivation. So most of us, I'll repeat it, most of us don't change until the pain of being the same becomes unbearable. Most of us don't change until the pain of remaining the same becomes unbearable.
So, like, what does that mean? Like, they wait till something bad happens?
Yeah.
Change
Yeah.
happens?
We don't want to not be a drug addict until we've lost everything, and the pain of the damage of relationships and everything is all that great. You know what? We can tolerate a certain amount of it because it's being offset by fun, it's being offset by pleasure, or it's being offset by, and this is how it starts. Listen, there is nothing natural. Can I just tell you, there is nothing natural about taking any carcinogen into your body. Your lungs do not like smoke. Okay? They don't. It's not like this little baby's like, I really, don't give me the bottle, Mommy. Put a blunt in my mouth. It's just, that's what I crave. Instead of calling them boobies, we'll start calling them doobies. It's not natural. It's not natural. Drinking something fermented is like, ugh. But what happened? Somewhere along the way, somebody who had some influence in a herd said, hey, you want to be part of our group? Smoke this. Try this. Everybody in this group puts this stuff in their mouth. And then we all laugh and we joke and it's fun. And you're not cool if you don't. You're not going to be accepted by us if you don't. It ain't natural. The taste of alcohol is not, the first time it's not like, wow, this is just so sparkling and refreshing. It's like, oh, I don't really like it. We choke it. First time, your body rejects it. But what do? Out of fear of not being accepted by the group or the influencers, we go ahead and we overcome our, that distaste. Now, and then we get some pleasure from some side effects. The greatest pleasure we get, actually, come on, if we're being honest, it's not the chemical high. Come on. It's the acceptance of the other users. It's being accepted at a lower level and saying, you can be dysfunctional and we'll accept you. Oh my goodness. This group accepts dysfunctionals. This group, we accept people who are hurting. Great, I'm full of hurt. Here, have a little bit of coping because all of us are hurting. This is what we do to help us cope. This will help you cope. Try some of this. Because in this group, we're all just hurting people trying to cope. You understand? And that's how it gets started. Then after a while, we get so deep into the herd, we get so hooked by the thing that, we get stuck. Then sameness becomes our routine. And after a while, we don't have the time. We've spent all of our resources, or maybe we're always short on time and resources. Maybe we never had the resources to even be able to explore or discover. This was just the crappy plate that was put in front of us. We started eating it and we didn't know that there was anything that tasted better. We just acquired a taste for it, and now actually we crave it, and when we're hungry, we think, give me a plate of that crap. I'm hungry. And somebody puts a tomato in front of us, a cucumber in front of us. We're like, oh my God, I don't want that. Give me some Mickey D's fries. I want a Happy Meal. And you never know what good food is. You never know what healthy food is. You never know the energy that can be gained from eating an avocado, or the proteins, or whatever. I don't like that. You understand? So, again, the statement is, God created you to be an original. And we're out here copying things. We're living a life of herd and copy, and it's driven out of a desire because of an identity maybe that we feel like we have to sustain. But the question is, have you even ever tried anything different? Do you have the faith to believe that there could be a whole nother space and time and purpose, and that your real creativity, your real gifts, your real talents, everything that God put in you, because you were created in the image and the likeness of God, and He is a creator. He is the most creative. He gave the rose a scent, and He gave the porcupine its needles. And He is so diverse, and He is so vast, and He put the rainbow in the sky, and He made the stars as the seas on the sand. Huge and vast. And have you ever thought that your opinion is what's keeping you stuck? That what you knew is going to keep you from being new? So we've got to relinquish some of that, and you got to have faith to do that. Because faith will keep moving you away from fear into the newness of life, into what could be. I have this saying, I say, live, right? You write it down. Live and lean into the unknownness of you. Live and lean into the unknownness of you. Most of you are on a loop. Most of you don't know your purpose. Most of you have been told really by the herd you're in, because they don't. Here's the thing about the herd. The people that manage the herd and are in the heart of the herd, when they see something different, they see something shining bright, they see something that has power, creativity, that's awesome, guess what? They have to shut it down. Why? Because it jeopardizes their place in the herd. If you outshine them, if your creativity is just so wonderful and awesome, and if you are allowed to be just as wonderful and as awesome as God created you to be, and you started innovating and you started creating, guess what? You can't be creative and be in this herd. You got to be the same to be in this herd. So there's no desire for you to be limitless. There's no desire for you to step into the unknownness of you. It's like, no, what you need to do is identify one small little part. And to be honest with you, for a lot of us, we've identified the weakness and we've herded up with other people of like weakness. That's a revelation. I could preach another 2 hours on that. You know I could. But
It's not wanting to be in the herd because you can't find like people like yourself, and you would rather not be around all those people.
right, but then you become a part of the wandering herd. All right? Come on.
Kind of is no such thing as non-conformity because
No, there isn't.
everything conforms to something.
Yeah. All right? Love you guys. You can catch part 2 on Sunday. You got 2 days. You got to wait.